Welcome, my friends, to the Sage of Quay Radio Hour, your home for free and critical thinking, and I'm your host, Mike Williams. Tonight, David Weiss of Flat Earth fame returns to the show. Many know David as the radio host of the popular podcast Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. His website, which goes by the same name, contains an impressive array of research topics designed to expose the lies and deception of the Matrix. The discussion with David is wide-ranging as we talk about where the Flat Earth movement is headed and whether the Flat Earth awakening poses a threat to the puppet masters and their agenda of un-enlightenment. And to kick the conversation off, I asked David if he sees Flat Earth awareness leveling out or if the interest is continuing to grow worldwide. And here is what he had to say.
You know, there's a lot of people that don't think it's growing, that are flat earthers, and they think it's plateaued, but I don't see it that way. I'm seeing more and more people open to it. I just was telling you, I went to a music festival this weekend and I wore this shirt, "The World is Flat," and numerous people came up to me and said something, several of them, like, I heard about this. None of them were flat earthers, but the seeds are planted, so it's going viral. And Mike, once this flat earth awareness gets in your head, you're done. There's no getting it out. It's not one of those things you forget about.
Yeah, you're right, because once you know about it, once you become aware of it, and once you do the research, you can't go back. You can't step back. I know myself, it took me a while to get on board with it. I had the same, startup as most people. When I first heard about it, I just thought it was the most ridiculous thing. Once, though, I started looking at the research that was being presented by people like yourself, putting forth quality material. There's a lot of junk out there, and I always say this. There's a lot of stuff. I think there's some people, they want their 15 minutes of fame, but then there are folks like yourself, David, who are putting some, really good stuff out there for people to wrap their heads around. And once you get into it, once you start to take a look at the logic, because it is very logical the way it works, all this other stuff about the globe and heliocentrism, it just seems to just fall apart. It's like a house of cards.
The globe is embarrassing once you become a flat earth realizer, if that's the way to say it, because once you look at the globe, it's absolutely insane. The only thing you need to believe in the globe earth is a bag of GMO potato chips, a couch, and a television, and that's it, and no critical thought. To understand the true reality of where we live, you really have to think, you have to study, you have to take time, you have to read, you have to watch videos, And for those people that say, you saw that on YouTube, I challenge them to find anything that's not on YouTube.
Right. That's an interesting way that people try to debunk by saying, oh, it was on YouTube. But the truth of the matter is there's a lot of very, very good material and a lot of good stuff on YouTube, not just Flat Earth.
I look at YouTube like the world. Everything is in the world. There's idiots, there's geniuses, there's everything that's real and everything that's fake. Everything's on YouTube. You have to use your awareness and your intelligence to look and think. People that believe in the ball just accept it without thinking, just because they were programmed from infancy that we live on a spinning ball.
Yeah. And, again, going back to YouTube, you're absolutely right. I mean, YouTube is a vehicle. I mean, it's a gigantic vehicle today in which people are able to communicate and get their views and their research out. Because what's the alternative? The alternative would be what? The mainstream media? That's not going to happen.
It's such a joke. I mean, from the most obscure thing, I have this fancy blow-up bed that comes out of a suitcase and it blows up and it's got legs and everything, and it had this pinhole leak on it. And I was trying to figure out how to fix it, and I literally Googled the name of the bed, how to fix a leak, and there was 3 videos on the exact problem I was having. I'm like, so everything's out there, and you can focus on what you look for and look for the good stuff. I like you, like I said in all my interviews, for 6 months, I refused to even look. The flat earth is ridiculous. It's synonymous with idiot, moron, fool, retard, everything. And then I looked, and it was shocking. But it's also freeing. I mean, I'm generally a happy guy. I'm a very positive person. But since I discovered the flat earth, it's opened up a whole new world of possibility. The globe earth the spot of dust flying through infinite space, spinning out of control, random chance life that we were living. All right, that was okay, but now it's something completely different.
For me, it cleared a lot of junk off the table. There was a lot of stuff, like many other people that were doing alternative research or conspiracy research, David, where I was spending time, reading books on NASA's exploits. I would be looking up pictures of nebula or, the Mars rover, or, well, it's been a long time now since I believe the moon landings, but at one point in my life, I actually believed that we landed on the moon. Deep space probes, Pluto, all that stuff, the Hubble telescope, the ISS. And so once I got myself on board with flat Earth, all that stuff got cleared off the table. All that clutter, all of that junk that just serves the purpose of being deception, gone. You got your buddy with you, huh?
Yeah, this is Anunnaki, all right? Before I was a flat earther, I named him. um, so where were we going with that? Oh yeah, NASA. I think I said in my last interview, I believed in NASA even after I discovered the flat Earth. Not long, but and the only reason I believed in it is because I never looked. As a species, we're trusting. Good people think that everyone else is good and that wouldn't lie, and we're taught to trust authority, and not even question it until you finally do. Then you realize why we're taught that.
Yeah, yeah, it's really quite amazing. Once you make that turn, like we said, there's no looking back because you see everything for what it is, and it's a big pile of lies and a big pile of deception. Now, talking about lies and deception, I sent this to you, so I know you probably haven't had any time really to take a look at this because I just sent it to you. But article today in the Huffington Post: Neil deGrasse Tyson blames the school system for flat earthers. The tagline at the bottom says, "In the 21st century, we should be doing better than this." And then he proceeds to be extremely condescending toward anybody that is taking a look into the flat earth or believes that the flat earth is flat and that we don't live on a globe. And I'll read this, David. I read this to you before we got the show started, but just for the audience, and I will put this in the show notes, the link. Tyson, in a recent conversation with the Huffington Post, likened flat earthers' level of logic and understanding of the world to that of children who think people on TV know them. When you are a little child, this is Tyson speaking, you think that the people on TV know you because you are the center of your own universe. In order to evolve and grow, and to grow up as humans, but also to grow up as a civilization, we have to, I guess what he's saying is, don't put ourselves at the center of the universe.
There's a lot of people out there that say, the reason people, believe in the flat earth is because they think they're so important, the center of the universe, and we were taught that, that's self-centered to believe that we're the center of this infinite expanding universe with billions and trillions of other Earth-like planets.
Right.
And when I got into the flat earth, I didn't even realize, until I really realized what was going on, that we are the center of at least this reality. There's other sections of flat Earth out there, and we're one of billions of others across this flat plane or other flat planes. I don't know. That's just speculation. But everything that we see, everything that we know, or and we don't know what we see, we are the center of it. Everything rotates around us.
Right, and there's the dichotomy, right? Guys like deGrasse Tyson want
Neil Disgrace Tyson.
Yeah.
He's a failed actor. He's just an actor. He's not a scientist. He was picked for his charisma. He was picked out for this position. And I sometimes wonder, is he just a brainwashed idiot, or does he know the Earth is flat and he's just out there shilling for the New World Order? I'm going with the latter, but again, sometimes I wish he was just that idiot.
Yeah, no, he's an actor doing theater, and he's well paid for it.
Does he know that what the information that they're feeding him is pure lies? He must.
My personal view is, yes, he does know, and his job is to go out there and, to do the PR and to be the front man, to be the veneer, try to be charismatic, like I said, he's really, he's an actor, and he's in a play. We've gotten the situation in the world today, David, as you know, that people just look to authority. So he's put out there as an authority figure, as an expert, and so he knows what he's talking about. People don't look at themselves as experts or as an authority. It's what we were talking about before. You can't be the center of your existence. There's got to be many, many other types of existences out there, and you're just a minor piece or a grain of sand on the beach. Their whole bag is to disempower humanity. It's to take humanity's power away and just make them essentially just cower in a corner. Don't have to think. All you need to do is just listen to the authority figures like Neil deGrasse Tyson and many others.
There's so many, we'll call them psyops out there where they have trained us to behave in their lie system. It's beyond what, even I can realize sometimes. It's everything they say is a lie. They want us to believe that we're a speck flying through an infinite universe with trillions of other specks out there and we're random chance. And most people do believe that. But when the truth is we are these incredible spiritual, powerful beings having a 3D experience on this flat plane, that our thoughts create our reality, and that's why they're trying to control our thoughts. Because when there's two emotions, fear and love, and fear is a low vibration. You are depowering yourself and giving your power away to whoever it is that's running the show here or trying to run the show. They tell us, you've heard of the psyop that New Agers. Now, there is a faction of New Agers that are off the rails, but meditating, mindfulness, working with other people with those dualities creates an amazing world. But they don't want us to have a moment of silence. They tell us that, there's demons, you'll summon demons if you meditate, or, all crazy stuff. And it's all hogwash just to control us.
Yeah, well, their manipulation of our minds and the consciousness is 24/7. And the reason why it has to be 24/7, I've explained this on other shows, David, is because they know how powerful the human can be. And so in order for them to stay on top of things, and in order for them to maintain their control and their power, they have to continue their mind manipulation. It's like a perpetual motion machine, 24/7. It's got to go, go, go all the time. Because as soon as there's a lapse, humans are funny creatures. All of a sudden, they'll start to think for themselves. And God forbid, they could break out of this matrix, they could break out of this deception and start thinking. And what they don't want is for that to happen, because when that happens and enough people do it, and the whole thing is going to fall like a house of cards.
They want us to be in fear. When back in hundreds of years ago, when we're living more in the wild, we have that fight or flight response. Like if we walk by a tree and there's a tiger, we're ready to run or defend ourselves, and our bodies are made that way. But they want to keep us in that state all the time. Everyone's afraid. You're afraid you're going to lose your job. You're afraid, you're going to be mugged, terrorists. They just keep us in that constant state of fear. You turn on the TV. I never watch the news anymore. But within seconds, horrible train crash today. Meanwhile, there was 40,000 other very successful train rides,
Right.
in that day. But they only focus on the one. Whether that's even real or not anymore, I don't even know. I mean, all of these events, we've gotten into it all. Sandy Hook, Boston, 9/11, Paris, all of them, complete hoaxes,
Yep.
false flags. And for somebody that has no idea, it's really hard for them to take that giant leap because, again, we're trusting souls.
Yeah, I have friends and family that are still so submerged in all of that, all of the lies and the deception. And like you said, you don't even know what's real anymore. I watch a lot of this stuff with these shootings, and we talk about what happened in the Bataclan, and I had a show with Ole Damagard. He talked about Norway.
Yep.
All of that stuff is fabricated and engineered. And, they're using a template, and they're playing the same thing over and over and over again. And, the only conclusion I can come to is that they're either, well, two conclusions. Either they're not very creative, or what they're doing is tried and true. In other words, people are still so hunkered down into the matrix and believing what's being thrown at them that they can continue to do the same thing over and over and over again, even though people like yourself who've done extraordinary work in this area have pointed out, hey, look, take a look over here. This is not real. This didn't happen. How come this person's in multiple false flags? There was one guy,
But
Mason
yeah,
something.
Mason,
Yeah,
right? They're sticking in our faces. By the way, that Neil deGrasse
that
letter
was
came
the
out.
Brussels bombing,
Yeah,
right? Right.
yeah, but he was at Boston. He was everywhere.
He was everywhere, right?
Yeah. Did Neil disgrace Tyson's letter come out today? Was it today it came out?
This is dated. Let me see the date on this. June 3rd.
June 3rd. Okay. This whole thing with gematria, numerology and stuff, I never ever believed in it, but there's just too much of it with
Oh
the
yeah.
color codes and the numbers, and today is, 6 6 16. Is something gonna happen today? I don't know. I keep hearing all these things, but it was always yesterday or the day before. The Mandela effect, you've talked about
Oh
that.
yeah. Yeah.
I'm not. I do not discount it, but I'm not jumping on it. One, I don't like the name. It shouldn't be. It should just be called the effect. And I often wonder, in 20 years from now, will we have a completely different story about 9/11? There was no Building 7. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Right? I
Right.
mean, are they reprogramming us to forget their screw ups? I mean, have these screw ups been going on forever? It's either that or they're not, and we're literally coming to the end of a cycle because this cannot go on much longer. People are waking up unless they reboot us or something. This cannot go on much longer.
Yeah. The Mandela effect is very interesting. I first became aware of it probably about 3 or 4 years ago. I'll just tell you the story real quick. I have a friend of mine. He writes for Veterans Today, and he had sent me a link, and he said, "Hey, Mike, take a look at this." So I read the article, and it starts off by saying some people remember events different than the majority of folks that are out there. So I'm like, okay, this is kind of interesting. Where's this thing going? And so it says there are people who remember Kirk Douglas dying. So I'm reading this article, and I'm reading it, and I'm thinking, what the hell are they talking about? He's dead. I remember him dying. I remember him dying. I remember his funeral out in L.A. I remember his son, Michael Douglas, coming out. The cameras had caught him. He was uncontrollable. He was very emotional. He was crying. I said, he's dead. So I get done reading the article, and then the first thing I do is I go to Google. I look up Kirk Douglas, thinking, he died in the 1990s, only to find out that Kirk Douglas is alive and well in his 90s and blogging in LA. So that was one of those situations. There was a couple of others in that article that I do remember these people dying before they died again, or they died and they're still alive today. So the Mandela effect is something that's very interesting, David. I had somebody contact me today, a friend on Facebook. I had put an article up on the blog about the Mandela effect, and this person sent me an email and says, Mike, I watched that video, and this is very disturbing because they rattled off their own series of things that they remember that do not exist today in the same context that they remembered them. Something is going on. There's some kind of shift in timeline, or we have been ever so slightly nudged over dimensionally into another place in space.
Maybe on a purely physical world like we're taught that we live in, it makes no sense at all. But if we are in some sort of projected reality, which is I used to think it was crazy, but now I don't. Maybe that's the Mandela effect right there.
Now, David, you had mentioned before about the psyops, and let me ask this question. To me, a psyop can be both deceptive, but a psyop can also be pushing the truth. So when people turn around and they say the flat earth is a psyop, of course, most people are saying they're using the negative connotation. But could it also be that the flat earth was put out there because somebody decided it was time to get some truth out there?
There's a lot of different ways to look at it. And again, this is all just speculation. Perhaps somebody that knows the truth is trying to leak it out. Maybe more than one person. Maybe there's different factions within the controlling elite that are disagreeing and they're trying to get it out. Another possibility is maybe the elite, whoever they are, have a way to see how things are going to unfold, and they know that the flat earth awakening is going to happen, so they're trying to get out in front of it. They're trying to keep control. The third thing is they're panicking because they don't want to lose control and
Yeah.
they're doing everything they can to stop it. Again, we don't know. What we do know is we don't live on a spinning ball and the world is flat if you look into it.
Yeah.
That's the end of it.
Well, how about this question? I have another one for you. It has to do with the flat Earth movement. And I'm seeing where the flat Earth movement is breaking into like groups. And I'm going to oversimplify this. So I'm going to say there's two groups. There are those that major on the entertainment value of flat Earth, and that's as deep as they go. They may have started off gangbusters at one point, but then it just kind of plateaued, and now it's kind of riding the popularity for, as I said, entertainment value. And then there are those that continue to do the research and to experiment to further the proofs of the Earth being flat.
So I'm going to see it a little differently than you.
Okay.
It is difficult for me, I can do it, to really socialize with ball earthers, with people that don't know. It's all I want to talk about. I want to talk about the world that we live in. I want to talk about real things that are happening and the lies that are being thrown at us as real. I want to discuss all of these things that are fascinating all of the time with people, but I can't because there's people that are locked in the matrix. So you have an ever-increasing number of people waking up to the flat Earth, and shows like Patricia Steer on Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes, she finds flat earthers that aren't really known, that are doing some good work, interviews them on a personal note. You know,
Right.
she interviews them to find out about them and introduce them. And if it wasn't for her show, I wouldn't have started collaborating with all of these other people. All right, my work, I've come up with a formula that can help wake people up from the beginning. You know, because people aren't going to watch. You know, like if you believe the official Sandy Hook story, you're not going to watch Unraveling Sandy Hook in 2, 3, 4, and 5 Dimensions by Sophia Smallstorm because it's 2 hours and 46 minutes or whatever it is. But if you watch a 2-minute video that gets you scratching your head and then a 5-minute video, then you'll get into the other ones. And I couldn't do what I do without all of these other people giving me ideas. Even when I'm not doing research, I like talking and socializing with other flat earthers. And we talk about alternative medicine. We talk about different foods that we eat. And you know, my medicine cabinet is more like an art store. You know, I drink turpentine. I drink hydrogen peroxide. You know, I do all of this crazy stuff. I drink silver. I make my own silver now. And this is from these late night chats that we have where we're just fooling around, talking and socializing as friends.
Yeah.
So everybody really wants more information, and we just take it as we can. And sometimes we talk, you know, 4, 5, 6 hours at a time on these group Skype calls. And while we're on these calls, I'll get an idea, and I'll literally make a video while on the call.
I was more kind of going down the path of some of these folks that are almost like fly-by-nighters, Johnny-come-latelys. They're essentially not even using their own material, but cobbling together other people's material, almost to the point where it's an oversaturation of flat Earth material out there, in my view. It's oversaturated to the point where some of it is just so non-value add.
Absolutely. There's more crap out there than there is good
Yeah.
stuff. But again, you can't stop it. Don't focus on it. Find the good stuff. You know, that's what I do. I'll watch so many videos, you know, and people send me videos. I have other people sourcing videos. Hey, check this out. And they only send me the best stuff. And then I boil it down farther. And then I take those and I put them on my website, Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. Or I put them on my Facebook page, which is Ball Earth Skeptic. So when somebody's like, wow, this flat earth thing is interesting, where can I see some stuff? They have a source. Instead of watching 600 videos, they can pick, you know, 10 videos, you know, because I've already watched all 600 for them. So, you know, there is ways to boil it down. The whole cycle is growing where people are going off the rails and then they're coming back on the rails. Some people bail out, you know, and don't know what to do. Others come up with good ideas, you know. Then there's the trolls out there that are just trying to defend their ball for whatever reason. And some of them inspire me to do my best videos. So I'm thankful for everybody doing everything.
There are folks that will say, okay, look, the flat Earth thing is interesting. I can see it. I can understand it. But you know what? There are higher priority things that we should be focused on. So don't waste your time there. We need to focus on X, Y, or Z. So how do you respond to that? Because there are people in the
There-
truth movement who are positioned that way, and they will come
I
out and
was
say that.
I was positioned that way for 6 months. I was like, you're taking away from other good research, important things. The flat Earth involves every single person without exception. There's other things that people don't care about. They're too far away. They're too far in the past. The flat Earth is today. It's now. It's everybody. Nobody excluded. And I literally have said this from the beginning, and people have laughed at me. It is the key to our freedom. When everybody realizes that we live on a flat Earth, that we are the center of everything, and that our thoughts create our reality, they have lost control of us. They have lost power. There's a couple of videos I have on my website. Why does it matter? Why would they lie to us about a globe Earth? One of them, I believe the guy's name is Daniel Pratt, who just does a rant on why it matters, and it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
And when people say why does it matter, I just send them that link, and they actually email me back sometimes a couple days later saying, "Wow, I went through that and I watched a whole bunch of other videos. Where can I get more?"
Well, I think it's important because what's more important than where you live? Understanding where you live, understanding your existence, So if they're going to lie about who you are, when I say who, I mean humanity, then people have to take a step back and think to themselves, there's a reason why they're doing that. There's a reason why they're lying to you about that. The conclusion you have to come to is there's something very important about being a human being that they don't want you to discover. They don't want you to know about.
They don't want you to know your true power. That's how they control us. The flat Earth, I've been looking into it for pushing a year and a half now, I think, every day, all the time. you know, when I'm out,
You're a
when I'm
wild
out,
man.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's every time when I go down to the beach with my girlfriend and we look at the sunset. She says it every time. She goes, "It's totally different now."
Right.
Because the sun isn't going down; it's going away.
Right.
And that's something I'd like to talk about. The people say we don't live on a flat Earth because the sun sets below the horizon. That can't happen on a flat Earth, and there's a whole bunch of reasons.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. Let me just see if I'm on the same wavelength as you. I have a question here I was going to ask you because I watched your video where you were taking a video of the sun and it was going towards sunset and the sun was getting smaller as it was heading down toward the horizon. And I've had people contact me because they know that you've been on the show, the Globers. They just want to just jump on anything which they believe will support their position, saying that, hey, look, what David did there was some kind of trickery going on with the video. There was some
Sure.
editing. The sun doesn't get smaller as it goes toward the horizon. Could you maybe cover that a little bit?
Yeah,
Because I know you're not editing videos.
very controversial, and there's a lot of flat earthers that think the same way. I think that that's a fake video also, but
Okay.
it's not. It's not, and there's multiple videos that show that. Let me give you a quick analogy before I get into it. When you stand up and stand still, what holds you up? Your bones hold you up. Your
Right.
muscles move you into position. Your myofascia holds you in position. Your brain waves are sending electrical impulses. There's a whole bunch of things that it's not just one thing.
Right.
It's not just your thought that holds you up. It's not just your bones that hold you up. It's a whole bunch of things. And the sunset is one of the most complicated things. And that's another thing people say is if you can't explain it in one sentence, then it's not real, which is just ridiculous. That's
is
what we're taught in school.
Yeah.
That's what we're taught in school. If it's too complicated, it's not real. The sun does a lot of different things. The way we see things, we don't see reality the way it really is. When you watch a full moon rise, when it just comes up over the horizon, you know how you see that gigantic moon, right?
Yep.
It looks really big.
Yep.
And then 4 or 5 hours later, when it's overhead, it's a quarter of the size, correct? It's not. It's the same size. And people have told me that my whole life. And I just said, yeah, I just that's ridiculous. It's way bigger over there. And I came up with an explanation why it's bigger, which is partially wrong. But here's an experiment for everybody to do. When the moon is rising and it's really big, hold your arm out at arm's length and hold your thumb block the moon. If your thumb's too big, use your pink finger or your little finger and just make it so that the end of your finger is covering the moon. And so at arm's length and, block it out. So my little finger covers the moon at my arm's length when it's gigantic. 4 hours later, when it's a quarter of the size, do the same thing and you'll see that the same finger at the same distance blocks the same moon. When you take a camera lens and look at that giant moon, it doesn't look as big through a camera because the illusion's broken. Atmospheric lensing, which is moisture in the atmosphere over distance, creates fluid. You have enough moisture in between you, and it actually magnifies things in the distance. So they're getting smaller but getting more magnified. That's affecting it. The sunset that you're talking about that everyone's up in arms with is in over the plains in Africa, clear, dry, flat land. And in the very end, it gets eclipsed by what I call a land horizon. A land horizon is anything in between you and the sun that is over your eye level, even an inch. An inch over your eye level will eclipse the sun eventually. So that one didn't have any atmospheric lensing or very little. It had a clear day where the sun could get far enough away before it hits what I call a cloud horizon. These are lots of new terms that I'm throwing out there. And a cloud horizon is very deceptive. I have a video. If you go to my YouTube page, DITRH, there's a playlist called How the Sun Sets on a Flat Earth. I think it's the top video. I'm going to describe this for, everyone has to imagine this. You have, imagine a blue sky, if you can, with these friggin' crazy chemtrails. And you have a white fluffy cloud, and they're spread out. Sky's blue, but you got some white puffy clouds, but it's mostly blue sky. And to look at the one above your head, you got to wrench your neck back and you got to look up, and that cloud's at, let's call it 40,000 feet. Okay, that cloud, and all these clouds are on a cloud deck. You know how they're all at the same level?
Yep.
And as they float into the distance, 30, 40 miles away, let's say we're looking 30 miles away over the water, that same cloud at the 40,000 feet, I'm now looking at it straight across without wrenching my neck back. And if you drew a line from my eyes to that cloud, from my perception, that line is pretty much parallel over the water. I mean, maybe it's tilted up a little bit, but you really can't even tell because that cloud at 30 miles away is indistinguishable almost from the horizon. And as those clouds are all going, you're starting to see a cross section of them more and more and more exponentially to the point where when you're looking up and you move just 5 or 10 degrees, it's not much of a difference in the number of clouds you're seeing through. But as you go down and start looking across that cloud deck, there's more and more clouds, and it creates, I call it a false horizon, a cloud horizon. And that cloud horizon becomes indistinguishable from the land water horizon,
Right.
the sky water or sky land horizon. So you see it as one line. Now the sun above it, not very high above it, is going into the distance. So just remember that. So now 30 miles away, Mike, you're standing under that cloud that I have a line from my eyes going to the cloud that is parallel with the water, okay?
Yep.
Parallel with the land. And you're underneath that cloud. Look at that cloud. You have to wrench your neck up and look backwards. And now imagine that line that's going from my eyes to that cloud. That line is going at a 45-degree angle or so down to my eyes from your perception. Think about that.
Right.
Can you see that?
Yeah.
So that line is diving out of the sky, and if you extend that line past the cloud, when the sun crosses that line, from my perception, it falls behind the false horizon. That is the number one reason we see sunsets, because there's always clouds. There's always atmospheric blocking. The atmosphere is in layers of density, just like the clouds are in layers. And down low is the most dense air with the most pollution and moisture and everything. That'll create a solid line that the sun and anything that moves beyond it will look like it's setting behind. Did you see my video with the string? That's one of my best experiments I did. I have a long flat counter in my kitchen, and I ran a string about 8 inches, 10 inches, maybe a foot or so above it, parallel, flat. And I ran a little sun globe, viewing it from a sideways view, and I ran the sun globe along the string. and it was going level with the counter. But then I put the camera on the counter looking up at the string, and I had obstacles along the way that were below the line, like a little mountain and, some trees and stuff just made out of kitchen stuff. And when viewed from below, the sun literally dove down at a 45-degree, and I compared it to a sunset, and they look exactly the same. And that just shows you how a land or cloud horizon will eclipse the sun. Just one last thing, getting back to that African video, there's also another video in that same video of the sun setting in Alaska in 2007, I think, where it was a clear, dry day, and the sun does the same thing. It goes into the distance and it shrinks because it was clear and dry and flat, and you can see it far enough.
So if I understand you correctly, David, what you're saying is if it's a great distance and it's not obscured by clouds, false horizons, and whatnot, you're going to actually see the sun get smaller. Whereas where most people live, because they don't have that distance between them and the true horizon, they're not going to see the sun become smaller and smaller because they're looking at it from a very, essentially, I guess, a short interval of distance, a shorter interval, I should say.
Correct.
Am I right?
That is the way I see it. That is, I look at the sun every day. Actually, I just got a solar filter for my P900,
Yeah.
and I'm going to be taking some pictures of the sun zoomed in at the same zoom throughout the day. Another proof is if we lived on a spinning ball, the sun would move at the same speed all the way around and down, but it doesn't. It comes from the east. It flies over your head. You don't notice it because it's like watching the hands on a clock move. It goes through the top of the sky very fast, and then as it gets towards the horizon, it slows down because it's just moving into the distance. The way that you can see that, if you watch a video of the sun setting, a time lapse of it setting, take the diameter of the sun, and when there's only one sun diameter below it, between it and the water, see how long it takes to hit the water, and then how long it takes to disappear behind the water, and they're completely different times. They're not even close.
Yeah, you're doing a lot of work, a lot of research looking into this. And whereas people who watch your material or other people's material, what they'll do is they won't do any research. They won't do any of that stuff. They just will sit there and just throw stones, they'll just throw rocks at you. And that's unfortunate because if more people put their thinking caps on, we might have maybe a more civil discourse.
It's an emotional thing. The flat earth is really ripping our reality out from underneath us, and people don't like change. They like to be comfortable. My life's going okay. I can go to work, I can come home, I can watch TV, I can eat my crap food, and I could drink on the weekends and watch sports. Life is great. That's what we're taught is great.
Right.
But it's absolutely insane. There's a lot of new people that are doing new experiments. I have one fan of my podcast who has people on the 21st of June on the solstice. That's the solstice, right? 21st of June. He's got people in California, in Kansas, on the East Coast that we're all going to be videoing, and they're all going to be linked up on a Google chat, and they're going to be measuring the angle of the sun to prove whether the earth is on a ball or flat. It's a great experiment. He's putting a ton of work into it. So there's lots of new experiments coming out, because everybody says, we knew the earth was flat because Aristophanes, proved it, how long ago, 500 years ago or whatever it was. Aristophanes never existed. It never did that experiment. Even if he did exist, that experiment couldn't have been done. And the two cities that he used were at different latitudes.
Yeah.
Or longitudes, whatever, the one that makes them higher up. So it wouldn't have worked anyway. We're just told lie after lie after lie without any evidence of anything, and people just buy it.
It's interesting. We were at the beach about 3 weeks ago, and it's just so obvious when you look at the sun that it's not 93 million miles away. I mean, it's just so obvious, David. You look at it, it's right there.
It's right there. That's what I always said. I always, every time I see the sun setting and there's people around, and I say really loud to my girlfriend, I go, look at that sun. I go, it's right there. It's not 93 million miles away. People look.
Yeah, it's bizarre when, once you get on board, it's bizarre to think that it's 93 million miles away. Because when Rebecca and I were at the beach, I said, hon, look, and she says, yeah, Mike, it's just right there. So how high is it, David? When we talk about how far away is the sun based upon your research and things that you know?
So the great researchers like Eric Dubay, who was one of the first people out there, before he might have ran off the rails a little bit, but he seems to be back doing some great work. I think it was him or maybe it was allegedly Dave D Murphy 25 on YouTube, who said that it works at an altitude of 3,000 miles over a flat Earth. The whole Aristophanes calculation. But I don't think it's that far away. I think it's literally 100, 200 miles away.
Oh,
Maybe.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think when people ask me, I say probably well under 1,000 miles away. Well under. So here's if you check out Jeranism's channel, he put up a balloon launch that some guy did who wasn't a flat earther. He's now becoming a flat earther. He does great, amazing balloon launches out of Arizona, and he filmed it, and it got up there, shows the Earth is flat, but the sun is right there, Mike. It's not a physical burning ball. It's right there, and so he wanted to get a closer look, so he wanted to get it so it would be closer to the sun. So he launched like 4 hours later, and so the sun would have been right there, and the balloon popped.
Oh, okay.
It popped.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, the same thing with the moon, right? I guess, are we to assume that the moon and the sun are the same distance?
So we're taught that the sun is, 400 times farther and 400 times bigger than the moon, and that one of them orbits around the Earth and the other one we orbit around it. But if you watch them, they take the same path and they're the same size and they do the same thing. It's a big question. Are they? Is the moon a sphere? I don't really know. I don't think it's solid. I think it's some sort of projection that affects our life in tremendous ways. Think about women's cycles and people.
Yeah.
The way they react on full moons. I think it's an electromagnetic force that is affecting our reality. The sun, I believe that is some energy source, being projected in possibly from another dimension. If you look up sonoluminescence or star in a jar, they're creating what looks just like a sun inside water with sound waves. That's a better explanation of what the sun is rather than a burning ball of hydrogen that takes 1 billion years for a photon to come out of the middle. I mean,
well, and I see people constantly looking at those Soho pictures of the sun, which I think are just total nonsense, where the flames are shooting out of the sun. And, and for a while there, they were, I guess about 2 years ago, actually about 2012, they would, NASA would have these Soho pictures, and then they would show what they thought were possible alien craft attaching, tethered to the sun.
I bought into all of that.
I did too. I had put that stuff up on my blog, and now I feel like an idiot, for having done that.
That's what I said at the beginning. Once you realize what's going on and you look back into what you truly believe.
Yeah.
I have 2 other cats, Nephilim and Zeta Reticuli. They're embarrassed to go out and see other cats.
That's too funny.
Yeah.
Oh man. So let's talk a little bit about some folks now that one person in particular that has come on board with the flat Earth apparently, and it's Crow 777.
Yeah, he's an amazing amateur astronomer. Or I'll call him a professional astronomer because he does more work than I've seen by anybody.
Yeah.
He's been filming the moon for a very long time. He's the first one that filmed what's known as the lunar wave.
Right.
And there was just a new one that somebody else filmed
down here in North Carolina.
Is that where it was filmed?
Yeah.
That one is amazing. And even before that came out, Crow came out, and what did he say exactly?
He said that he didn't say he was a flat earther. He just said that he doesn't believe we live on a planet with a T, is what he said.
Yeah, he said the best way to describe the reality that we live in is if you took the word planet and removed the T.
Right.
And the reason he doesn't want to say he's a flat earther is because of the Flat Earth Society, which none of us flat earthers have anything to do with. The Flat Earth Society is another psyop out there that mixes a little bit of truth in with ridiculousness. So anybody that's searching for the Flat Earth Society used to be the first hit. They would read a little bit, watch a video, check out. They're good for another 10 years of unconsciousness.
I've run into the same thing where I've talked about flat Earth, and the first thing people will do is they'll go Google and they'll have the Flat Earth Society, and then it
Yep.
just looks like a bunch of nonsense because it is a bunch of nonsense, and it's there in order to make people who are truly looking into the Flat Earth to appear to be, out of their minds. So, in your view, what are some of the better sources, whether it be people or sites that people can go to that can get legitimate research, legitimate analysis of flat Earth?
There's a bunch, like Mark Sargent has a new website, marksargent.com, that has lots of good stuff. But that's mostly his stuff, which is good. Eric Dubay has put out some really good stuff. But what I do is, I put out a bunch of stuff, but my website actually doesn't even have most of my stuff on it. That's all on my YouTube channel. But I basically take all of the best videos and compile them. I now have 3 pages of Flat Earth. By the way, my website is a mess. I'm working on getting it rebuilt, but it works. It doesn't work on iOS, so you have to use your computer. But if you have Apple TV, find these videos, find the channel. Hey, that's a great video. Then start a YouTube playlist, a YouTube channel if you don't have one. And subscribe to those people. When you find a good video, subscribe to them. And as new videos come out, you'll be kept up to date. And literally, I don't think anybody that has any intelligence, if you have a tiny bit of intelligence, that if you went through my 3 flat Earth pages, that you would not come out the other end knowing the Earth is flat.
Yeah, you have very good material on your site.
And it's not all mine.
Right.
I compile other people's videos. I
Right.
compile the most convincing videos. And again, if you're new to Flat Earth and you hear this and you believe us, you're crazy. You have to check it out yourself.
Yeah.
You have to check it out yourself. And that's the biggest stumbling block with the Flat Earth.
What do you think about Rory Cooper's work in my perspective? I mean, I love Rory's channel.
Love it. He's one of the best. I've been begging him to do a video for me showing how the South Pole Star works, because I've recently figured out a perfect explanation. Because Ball Earthers come out, South Celestial Pole Stars prove we live on a globe. The flat Earth is dead, and that's all they say. But they don't realize what they're seeing.
Yeah, yeah. I think Rory did more for me.
Yeah.
Because the thing that I struggled with initially was the whole concept of perspective. And I think a lot of people struggle with that out of the chute. And I actually stumbled upon his channel and I started watching his videos, and then it cleared up like that. He does a great job of explaining it.
He's got great graphics. I have him linked on the top of my flat Earth page. I'm like, here's some YouTube channels to start out with, And the thing is, you can't discover the true nature of our world in 140 characters, the Twitter mentality. You have to take the time. Turn off the TV for a week and just watch Flat Earth videos. And go in trying to prove that the Flat Earth is complete bunk and we live on a spinning ball. And there's no way you can come out the other end winning.
The other thing I wanted to mention, too, you mentioned Eric. I read Eric's book, The Flat Earth Conspiracy, and it's 250 pages. I recommend to people that they get his book. I think it's like $10 or something like that, maybe $15 to download it and to read that. There's a lot of very, very good information in that book.
Yeah, there's a couple other good books. The Greatest Lie Ever Told is a fairly new book. I think that's the name of it. That one, it really goes over everything, and it's very good. I'm trying to pull it out of my bag here. I always keep a copy with me because
you carry it with you.
I have extra copies with me because sometimes I feel like giving it to people. It's The Greatest Lie on Earth, a proof that our world is not a moving globe by Edward Hendry.
Okay.
Great book.
I'll have to get that book.
Yeah, so
I've heard of it, but I have not read it.
Yeah, no, it's really fantastic. Available on Amazon or whatever. And there's lots of people that are becoming flat earthers that they're like, what can I do? And when I learned about flat earth, I had never made a video. I didn't know what I was doing, and now I'm putting out pretty decent content. And I'm getting, I get tons of emails of people apologizing to me for attacking me, saying I can't believe that you've woken me up, all different emotions. And it's good. So, when you asked me at the beginning, is the flat earth movement growing? Yeah. When I first started, I got tons of resistance,
Yeah.
On my podcast when we first started doing it. We were talking about 9/11, and I wanted to bring up Sandy Hook. I wasn't even allowed to talk about it. They're like, no way, that's crazy. And now we have the Sandy Hook Minute every week. Okay. And then it's the same thing with the flat earth. I got ridiculed. You have to have tough skin in this,
Oh yeah. Oh,
in
yeah.
this, truth world. But now, everybody's wearing flat earth t-shirts and talking flat earth. I'm getting invited on lots of shows like yours, and it's really taken off. I don't know how much longer it could not hit the tipping point.
What's good about your videos is that you make them short and sweet. Because I hit your channel a lot, and I put a lot of your videos up on the blog, and then I will send those links out. And the feedback that I get is that these 3, 4, 5 minute videos, 6 minute videos, they really do the job, because most people, their attention span is like a gnat to begin with, and so when you put your stuff out there, it gets right to the point.
Do you know why I put out short videos?
Why?
Because I have short attention spans. and no, I just know it. But you know what I love now? I love a 2-hour or a 3-hour good video.
Yeah.
It's like I come across that, I'm like, yeah, movie night. And I'll get into it. But you won't do that. Like, would you go to the movie theater to see a movie that you thought was complete garbage? Of course not.
No, right.
You need to see a good preview of it. That's the movie theaters know the trick. They give you a preview with some music, and they show you some highlights, and you're like, wow, that's interesting. I'm going.
Yeah.
And that's basically my videos are previews into flat earth concepts.
Yeah, no, it's good because sometimes folks will get very curious when I'll post on Facebook, and they're kind of like behind the scenes, right? They'll slip a private message to me and say, hey, I've noticed that you put this flat earth stuff out there, and I'm curious and I'm interested. Could you send me some information so I can get more on board? And a lot of times, David, honestly, I'll send them your videos because, like I said, they're very concise. They get right to the point. I'll send them Rory's videos. And of course, there's others out there. So I don't want to disparage anybody else doing work. There's a lot of people doing good work. But that's what I do. I mean, so like even Rory's videos, I mean, they like 15, 20 minutes.
Mike,
it's good for what he's covering.
You could do what I do, or, and anybody can do this. Like if you have somebody that you're working on, think about, what videos would be best for them. If you're already a flat earther, just create a playlist. You can add other people's videos to your playlist and then send them the link. And make sure your first video is short and really good, and then you can start getting longer ones, and then you send them the actual share link, and it automatically goes to the next video. So when they sit there, they watch a 2-minute video, and they're like, huh, and before they can do anything, another video's on, and they get sucked in. And literally, I've done that, and people have said, you killed me for 7 hours. They didn't get away from their computer for 7 hours, and at the other end, they're like, all right, I don't believe the earth is flat, but it's not a spinning ball. And then a week later, they call me and they say, Jesus, it's flat.
Well, let me ask this question here. We talked about this before we got started. I just didn't want to miss this particular news story, but there's a company called Moon Express that is partnering with NASA to make trips to the moon. And they're going to start with a 20-pound package of quote-unquote scientific hardware. What's going on there?
Jesus. So one, they're partnering with NASA. So not even the people in that company believe that it's real. NASA's not real. None of it's real. None of it'll ever happen. There'll be a disaster. That'll blow up on the, on the launch pad, or there'll be, civil unrest, which is we're literally on the brink of. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, there's a reset in consciousness coming, and how awake people are going into it will determine the outcome. So it will never happen. And even if they allow a company that believes they can do it, that will never happen, because the moon isn't a place that you can go. I mean, nobody's ever been into space. None of it's real. NASA spends the bulk of their money on helium. Think about that.
Yeah. Well, and they're building underground, undersea, I should say, fiber connections and everything that they're doing, they shouldn't be doing if they had space and they had satellites and so on. I mean, they're doing everything that they're doing is ground based. I mean,
All of
that's
it's
what I'm
ground-based.
seeing.
Right. Years ago, long before GPS, I was out on, as a child, we're out on boats and we had the Loran system, which was tower based, 8-digit numbers. You plot them on a map and it shows you where you are. Then they just put a graphic overlay over it and said it's satellite based. If satellites were whizzing all around the earth in all different directions, there'd be satellite coverage everywhere. But I was just in upstate New York, and when I go down, in between two mountains, I lose my
Right.
Sirius fake satellite signal. When you fly over the outer southern oceans, there is no GPS. In between California and Hawaii, there's no GPS.
Right.
It's all approximated. Now, people say, well, there's no cell service here, but I have my GPS picks up a signal. Well, GPS, it works on radio frequency, not just cellular frequency, and it has a little better range. But there's giant masts, tower masts all over the place that are sending signals back and forth. People say, well, what about the GPS on my phone? And they hold up their iPhone. And I said, all right, let me ask you a question. Do you think your phone is communicating with satellites spinning around the earth or with a couple of cell towers that are triangulating your position from the best angle,
Right.
not moving? And they're like, well, the cell phone, but then the cell phone tower communicates with the satellite. And I say, why would it do that? It already knows where you are. It's going to tell the satellite, and then people scratch their head and they're like, wow, I never really thought about that.
Yeah, I tell people GPS stands for ground positioning systems, and all of these cell towers that you see going up overnight, nobody actually ever sees one actually being built. They just appear. And what's going on there has nothing to do, this is what I tell folks, has nothing to do with cell reception because, look, on my phone, I can tell you right now, my cell reception where I live, and I live in the Raleigh, North Carolina area, hasn't gotten better in over 10 years. It's the same reception I had 10 years ago. So all of these towers that are going up, what's their purpose then? My take on it is ground positioning systems and doing exactly what you said that they're doing, David. There's no satellites. They're triangulating and they're working with radio frequencies. This is how it's working. And I also believe that it's quite possible that if there is a firmament and there is a dome, whatever it's made of, that they're able to maybe deflect off it, beam off it, whatever it may be. This is some other ideas that I had, about how they can do this. But I agree with you. There's no satellites.
Just without getting too far off the flat Earth, there's cell phone towers. Those big cell phone towers you see are not. A lot of them are fake. Some of them might have a little cell technology on them, but they're not. You're aware of the Gwen towers and
Yeah.
what they're doing with these things. They're putting, a cell tower needs, 2, 3, 400 watts. They're putting 50,000 and more watts into these things. These are literally weather control, mind control, human, population control towers that
That's right.
will be the end of what we call freedom. I'll send you a link if you want to put it to a great article on it, a website that you can put in the show notes.
Yeah, send me all the links that you have that
Yeah.
you want to put in the show notes, and I'll put them in. Now, David, I guess the second to last question. I don't want to take up too much of your time here, but how much of a corner has NASA got themselves into with all their fake videos and their fake images? And it seems like whenever they release something now, it just it's a farce. It becomes a big joke. I mean, how big a problem do they have?
It's huge. The only out I see for them is when they if they try to pull off a fake alien invasion and claim that they knew that the Earth was flat, but the aliens made them do this to protect humanity from learning the truth too soon and destroying civilization.
Yeah.
Like, we've got too much knowledge before we've evolved enough, and it would be the end of humanity, and that they were doing it to protect us. Free pass for NASA.
Yeah. It's really amazing. I see their pictures, and all this stuff, and many of the listeners have probably seen this stuff. But when they sent that probe out to Pluto, Pluto's face basically is on the planet Pluto, and what they're doing is they're laughing, right? I mean,
Where's the patent for the transmitter that sends that signal back to Earth from Pluto? Because I can't get the Wi-Fi to work on the opposite end of my
There you
house.
go.
They're sending crystal clear pictures of a planet that is so dimly lit, with a spaceship that's flying by it at who knows what speed, that it have to do a multi-houred exposure to get that kind of detail. It's absolute insanity what they show us, and people believe it.
Yeah, no, it is crazy stuff. And like I said, it's going to fall like a house of cards at some point, and it's just a matter of how are they going to cover their asses when
Yeah,
it starts to fall.
I saw somebody made a video today. At the end of the video was a bunch of clips of like Anderson Cooper on CNN going, NASA officials to stand trial for treason, and all these fake headlines. And it really made me feel good. And I actually think that it might come to that, but when that happens, there will be such unrest in the world. People will freak out. People that, I actually think that the people that already know that the earth is flat might be the ones that help restore people's being calm and not uprising.
Yeah,
It's the people that are going to wake up all of a sudden that, I don't want to say it, but, the less intelligent people, I'm not saying that I'm super intelligent, are going to freak out. They freak out over stupid little things, but when they find out that everything they've been told, and they're billions of dollars every year, $80 billion NASA got this year supposedly,
yeah.
it is all for naught. Everyone will stop paying their taxes. They'll stop participating in anything. Government mind control is dead at that point.
Let me ask you a question, David. I knew I said that was the last question, but you just said something that is a topic I like to talk about. What are they doing with all that money? I mean, they must pay a graphics designer about $2,000 or $3,000 to sit down and put their bogus videos and put their
He's
pictures out.
overpaid. He
and
does horrible work. I could do better.
and they get to pocket billions and billions of dollars. So what are they doing with that money?
My thought on that is money's not even real. Money's nothing. So they're not taking that money. They're not using that money. They're taking our money to keep us enslaved. How many people do you know that are living paycheck to paycheck?
Yeah.
More than not, the people, they basically work, sleep, drink, sports, and eat poison and watch mind control television, and they're not thinking for themselves, and that's what they want. The elite don't need money; they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
They have the power. It's all about power and control. Money is nothing. Money is worthless.
So
So
it's just stealing from the people in order to keep them in debt and keep them in that fear mode.
correct.
Huh, That's
And
very,
you got to pay that graphic designer $1,500 max because he's horrible. He's horrible. I mean, how come they have NASA has like a few pictures of the Earth, and the United States is double, triple the size in one of them? I mean, how does that happen? I mean, there's a joke in there somewhere. America really has gotten fat or something, but. Do they do it on purpose, or are they just not that well coordinated where they can keep everybody on the same page?
it's hard to say. I mean, there are some things, maybe more than some things, that I think they do intentionally. I think it's to test the waters. I think it's to say for them to take a step back and say, look, they really are very stupid because, nobody's looking into this. Nobody's doing any comparisons. Nobody's calling us on this. And we can continue to put this crap out there, and they just eat it up, or they pay no attention to it whatsoever. Either way, it's okay with them. So I don't know. I think a lot of it is almost like a bit of a test to see how awake or how unawake the masses are.
Yeah, I mean, they don't care, how about the few of us that are awake. They care
No,
about how many are sleeping,
right?
and I have different theories sometimes. I think they're really just that bad at coordinating everything, or they're really trying to let us know. Maybe some people are trying to screw up, but maybe that's part of the plan because they need their one world government, their one world police force, and they can't do that until we beg for it. So they need us to rise up. They need us to flip out, and maybe they're going to use the flat Earth That's a psyop. The awakening to the truth of the flat Earth to get people to rise up and disrupt society so they can bring in martial law. Because once the money train stops, transportation stops, fuel stops, not within weeks, within days,
Yeah.
people are going to be begging for UN troops to come in. They're going to be begging to give up their guns, give up everything. And that's when it's really going to hit the fan, so to speak, and how we react to that situation will determine our future.
And to put it into perspective, down here in North Carolina, we get the hurricane warnings, and if a hurricane does blow in, just to reinforce your point, David, within a day or two, the supermarkets are wiped out, completely wiped out of food, water. That's a day or two, and that's just a hurricane that people are concerned about blowing in, and they're not even sure if the hurricane's actually going to hit. If it does hit, how hard is it going to hit? It's just everything gets wiped out. So to go along with your point, I mean, if things really start to go south, then it's going to unravel very, very quickly, and it's going to get ugly real fast.
Yeah, certainly is, and what can you do to prepare? The most important thing is to prepare spiritually, to really understand who you are, where you are, what is going to happen. I don't know. What's going to be the cause? Is it going to be a financial collapse? Is it going to be awakening to, the false flags and the hoaxes that they've been pulling on us? Is it going to be, who knows? All they want us right now is focusing on the election, which is complete hogwash. And, the question is Donald Trump actually going to try to challenge the New World Order, or is he just another puppet?
Yeah, what's your view on that?
My view is that if he does try to expose what's going on, he'll be dead before the election.
Yeah, it would be like a JFK type of thing. That's
Yeah.
the thing. People really don't understand how entrenched the bad guys are, how subverted the entire system is. And we're talking about everything, the political process, it's your churches, it's your institutions, it's your education system, it's everything.
Yeah, if Donald Trump is really a smart guy, he has to know 9/11 is a sham.
Right.
He was supposedly there, and there's questions about whether he really was there. Maybe he lied about where he was just for publicity. I won't even hold that against him. But if he tried to speak out on any one of these things that we speak of, that would be the end. That would be the awakening. That would be the mass awakening. That would be the tipping point. I'm looking for that one event, that one thing that will go viral. Like, I was at this music venue, I told you, and I had my shirt on, and I told people that were questioning me, I said, listen, I'm over by that tree. I said, I've got $1,000 for anybody that can give me just one proof that the earth is a spinning ball. And all day, about 20 different people were coming over, and they're like, I got it. Astronauts, and then I'd give, and we had great conversations. It wasn't any, this people getting upset or anything, and it was good. But like if somebody like B.O.B. the rapper who came out, if he put up like $100,000, or some other big flat earther, someone that's there are some people, famous people that are becoming flat earthers, put up, $100,000 or $1 million reward, that could literally go viral overnight.
Right.
So something like that. Or if somebody like Donald Trump came out and said, hey, 9/11 was a sham, watch 9/11 mysteries, watch this, that would get millions and millions of people watching it, and that would cause a problem. I just don't think that he is the one that is going to make a difference, because he can't.
Yeah.
He just can't.
He kind of leans into a couple of things, like when he talked about vaccines and stuff like that. So he's leaning in a certain direction. But I agree with you that for him to come out and talk about a true conspiracy, that he would be in big trouble. I mean, his life would be in jeopardy. And so, I mean, I don't know how this is all going to play out. Me personally, because people ask me about Trump, and I said, look, I'm watching. It's not a cop out. I'm watching. I know how this works, so I can read between the lines, and I'm just taking a look and seeing, how it plays out. That's all. I'm not on anybody's bandwagon. I'm not being, led around by the nose because, rah rah, making America great again. Well, we've heard all that shit before, you know.
Right.
So, but anyway, and just to kind of wrap up, David, because you've been so kind with your time. Again, we're talking about the progress that the Flat Earth is making, and I'll put this link in the show notes. But the article from the Huffington Post, we started the show off with this article where Neil deGrasse Tyson blames the school system for flat earthers because they're not teaching them about the globe like they should be, apparently. So,
Yep.
David, where can the listeners get more of David Weiss's material, his research, and all of his wisdom?
Thank you so much. It's a collaboration of everybody out there, even the people that don't do experiments. We have conversations and we come up with good stuff. We all inspire each other. So, there will be factions going in this way and that way, but the Flat Earth Awakening is unstoppable in my mind, unless they literally shut off the power. And then people are going to be worried about food and water.
Right.
You can find me at deepinsidetherabbithole.com or DITRH for short.com. My YouTube channel is DITRH, Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. And that's where you can find my videos. My website has all the best videos, but I put even more videos, that if you want more content on my Facebook page, which is Ball Earth Skeptic. After I do shows like this, I get tons of Facebook friend requests. I have a personal Facebook page, which is, for my personal family and friends, but I don't spend very much time on there. I'm on Baller Skeptic. Like that page, you're friends with me on Facebook. I can get messages from you. You can, send me stuff, and I do my best to respond as fast as I can, but I get lots of messages. So, if you're going to send me something, keep it short and to the point, and we can start a dialogue that way.
It's great having you on the show again. I'm so glad that you came back.
Okay.
And you can come back anytime, my friend. You know that. And we talk about whatever. We don't have to talk about flat Earth because you're into a lot of stuff. And pick a topic and we'll get into it.
All right. Excellent. Thanks.
You're very welcome. And that concludes another Sage of Quay interview. And I hope you enjoyed the discussion as much as I did. Links to my guests' websites and social media are listed in the show notes below. And as always, I'd like to thank everyone for listening and visiting the blog. You can get to the blog by typing in sageofquayradio.blogspot.com. or simply head over to our hub website at sageofquay.com. Also, if you get a moment, please visit laboroflovemusic.com to listen to my album, Leaving Dystopia. And remember, live in truth and always serve creation. It's really that simple. See everyone next week. Be safe, enjoy, and God bless.